The following is a presentation of the ForceCenter podcast feed.
From the center of the galaxy, this is the ForceCenter podcast feed, and this particular episode of the ForceCenter podcast feed is our deep dive episode. It is one of our scene-by-scene episodes. Today we're going to be talking about a scene that many Star Wars fans love very dearly. We are calling it Kenobi's Campfire of Resolution. I am Joseph Scrimshaw.
I'm Ken Napzok. He surprises me with those, and I love this one. Happy to dive into, one of my favorite scenes in Star Wars.
It is a very good one. We're going to get into it right away, but first we want to tell you about some offers. As longtime listeners know, today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. We are recommending Master and Apprentice by Claudia Gray. You know what? It's got some Obi-Wan Kenobi in it, and this is an Obi-Wan Kenobi related discussion this episode. So to download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Again, that's audibletrial.com/ForceCenter for a free audiobook. And Ken, do you want to share our other offer?
I'd love to. We're not done with the offers, my friend. Inside Editions, publisher of a ton of great Star Wars books, is offering 35% across their website with a special Force Center code. To get your discount, enter the coupon code FC35 or visit the website with this link, insideeditions.com/discount/FC35. FC35. This week, we're recommending the Inside Edition book, The Lightsaber Collection. Check it out with that code FC35. Kenobi's got some stuff in that book because he, as you all have probably heard, is a Jedi. All right. There you go. Special offers for all of you, our loyal Force Center listeners.
That's right. A Jedi who learned the hard way to really keep hold of your lightsaber. He's got a bad track record. He lectures, but he's lost a few. And got a few back. If you are a newer listener to Force Center in general, we've been trying to do one of these episodes about every month. We call it Scene by Scene, where we break down one of the big scenes in Star Wars or just a scene that we're, really interested in. So far, this list is getting longer. We'll see how much longer we'll list every other scene by scene we've done. So far, we have discussed Rey's Cave of Mirrors, Dooku's Cell of Half-Truths, Palpatine's Box of Lies, Obi-Wan's Hut of Exposition, Palpatine's Lab of Horrors, Luke and Vader's Walkway of Doubt, and now we're discussing Kenobi's Campfire of Resolution, the great scene from Season 3, Episode 20 of the animated series Rebels. This episode is written by Dave Filoni and Henry Gilroy and directed by Dave Filoni. It's about 5 minutes of philosophy, mentorship, and then sudden violence. So it's Star Wars in 5 minutes. Ken, let's just start with the big overall picture. Why do you love this scene?
This to me is a perfect ending to this lifelong feud between these two big-time Star Wars characters. And the fact that we're here at the end of this journey with Maul, a character that number one we all thought died, and two comes back in such a great way and continues that great way in Rebels, which is something, again, I don't think I would have expected at the beginning of Rebels. I always go to this episode when I say, go to season 1 of Rebels, which is better than I ever remembered it, by the way. On my rewatch, I just kind of really was like, yep, I missed a lot in this, but it was a different thing. It was a younger, skewed, especially season 1. But to go from season 1, episode 1 of Rebels to this, man, what a journey. And then beyond that, it is my, as I always say, my second favorite lightsaber fight. It is some of the best philosophy, like you mentioned. It I won't say knocked or completely changed my worldview, but just really kind of gave me some insight into some things and also conversations in my own life, in my own existence. And that's when Star Wars really works, when you can not just see yourself in it, but can take stuff from it. I don't always need to see beat by beat my life reflected in what I read or watch. Sometimes that's great. Sometimes that's nice. Sometimes not necessary. But this one was like, oh gosh, I can take that quote and apply it to my life. And that's why this scene really got me. It wasn't just like the final fight. It was, wow, 5 minutes of deep thinking.
Yeah, and I think this is such a great example of the kind of storytelling that can happen in Star Wars, where it is similar themes that you can find elsewhere, similar ideas, and it's just a great demonstration of sometimes the exact situation and the way an idea is presented can really be powerful. That it is the idea itself, but sometimes exactly how it's presented reaches different people at different times, and it's really cool to hear how deeply this affected you. And we're going to get to dig into some of those specific moments of how it affected you. And I agree. I think that's part of the reason that I like this scene is it's a scene that epitomizes a lot of ideas in Star Wars, and it's a great summary. And for me, one of the big summary moments is this might be my favorite, most pure Jedi moment. There are, of course, others, but I think this is Obi-Wan with his feet planted firmly, with total understanding of what he's doing. It is a perfect Jedi moment of following through on what the Jedi strive for, which is to use the Force for knowledge and defense. There's a lot of great little mood beats. There's a lot of great themes, but it is literally moments of pure defense and knowledge. And I love it for that, as well as empathy. That's not in Yoda's list that he gives Luke on Dagobah, how a Jedi should use the light side of the Force, never for attack, but for knowledge and defense. But I would say empathy is high up, and this epitomizes a Jedi who takes action when necessary, but is acting from a place of knowledge, defense, and empathy. Other things about the scene that are hugely important to me is a big Kenobi fan. This is such an important moment in his journey. You can look at who Kenobi is in A New Hope, and you can definitely come up with some opinions, but with the more expanded storytelling that happened in the Clone Wars in particular, and now is expanded storytelling on the horizon, this is such an important moment to know that in this desert, he came to a place, much like Luke at the end of his journey, he came to such a place of peace and purpose. And it was exciting when I saw it to realize that. And it is exciting for the future, knowing that the Kenobi series is coming. This is one side of his journey. When we see him at the end of Revenge of the Sith, I don't think he's fully at a place of peace and purpose. And he is here. And I'm really hoping that story, the Kenobi show, is that very important story of how he came to the place that we see him in this scene. And then my final big picture thing, echo what you said, Maul is a great character, and I feel like I really like it when characters get a great resolution, particularly Star Wars characters, where just because we've seen them die doesn't mean we're done telling stories about them. And this is just such a great and perfect and beautiful end for Maul, and he deserved that conclusion, that resolution. So I'm happy for Maul.
Yeah.
A weird thing to say in a scene where he dies, but you know what I mean, right? Happy for the character. The character got the resolution that the character deserved.
Totally, man. Totally.
Excellent. Well, we always like to dig in a little bit to where the characters are at. For this particular episode, we're going to a little bit more set up how this scene comes into place rather than going deep into the head of Ezra and Chopper and things like that. Not that you can't, but we're going to set up a little bit more how this scene begins and dive right into it. So, through a vision with Ezra from a combined holocron, Maul has located his old enemy Obi-Wan Kenobi on Tatooine, and to bring Kenobi out of hiding, Maul connects with Ezra and lures the young Jedi to Tatooine. Ezra hopes to save Kenobi and maybe even bring him back into the fight, but through Maul's successful manipulation, Ezra and Chopper are lost in the harsh sands, and sensing their pain, Obi-Wan Kenobi comes to the rescue. Ezra and Chopper, Ezra, wakes up at a lovely campfire, and our scene begins there. Chopper is being recharged, a dewback is gently roaring, and old Ben's poking at a crackling fire under a peaceful night sky. And as the scene truly begins, we get to see Kenobi through young Ezra's eyes. What's fun or joyful or interesting about that to you, that the scene begins with us seeing Kenobi through Ezra's eyes?
It's fine. It's what is it? Is it Spartacus? No, which was the one where the feet of Jesus show up? Ken's not good with his classic films. I love that shot of Kenobi walking up, and all you see is the feet. And we knew, and we were building towards this, but it's exciting. I love this question of what's Ezra's scene. It is. This is not going to be the first time we bring this up, but it is similar to Rey Luke Skywalker, I thought he was a myth, and now you're climbing the stairs and actually seen him. Kenobi maybe isn't as built up in Ezra's mind as Luke was to Rey, but he definitely finds him as this whispered legend and shows up there with the same kind of energy. And to kind of look up and see someone who is perhaps, as Ezra's still growing as a Force user, as a Jedi, or a Jedi like soul, to just see this kind of like someone who's almost like so of the Force. It's not Kanan going, I don't know if I can teach you. It's just this. Oh, I love that beginning. I love it. I love that Chopper's already awake. Like, we've been eating snacks. A lot about it, and it's a great starting point, because then Ezra's going to still look at Kenobi the way I think we would too, of, hey, there's a big thing going on. You got to go help. You got to come with me.
Yeah, exactly. I think there is this great tension between what Ezra sees and what we as the audience know is a little bit more true, because we have a relationship with the Kenobi that Ezra doesn't yet, and we get to see that great tension between the legend of Kenobi. And you're so right to point out that, like, yeah, of course Ezra looks up to Kanan, but Kanan's like, I don't know if I even want to do this. Okay, I'll try. And to see the legend, the master Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's been staring at that holocron, right? And seeing Kenobi. And then I think what we know, what Ezra will see a little bit, and what we definitely get to see as this scene progresses, Ezra's seeing him as a legend. And even though he is a powerful Jedi, he's just a person doing his best under not perfect circumstances. So that contrast between Ezra going, "You're a legend," and Obi-Wan going, "I'm an old man at a fire doing my best," and that's what a hero is. The hero is not, this kick-ass fighter. A hero is somebody who, picks their moments and does their best, and there's this great, I'm glad you brought up Rey. It does have it's similar, but with a different tone to Rey presenting the saber to Luke and going like, "There's a problem. You're going to come kick ass, right?"
Yeah.
And Obi-Wan, I think, has a gentler approach than Luke, because like, "No, that's not my mission right now, and that's yours. You should go do that." Is a little gentler than tossing the lightsaber away, but there's definitely an energy of Ezra's like, I came here to find you and rescue you, right? And then you're going to kick ass, right? Is so great. Such a great way to start out the scene.
Yeah, I'll tell you what though. I feel if you show up 7 years earlier, Kenobi's probably like half in the bottle, going, "I want nothing to do with this. I don't know what I'm doing here." Like, like I think we don't see him go through that period yet. Maybe I'm trying to not put too much expectations on that series. Man, I want so much stuff in there. But you know what I mean? Luke's living that part. I want no part of this.
Yeah, and I'm very curious. I think Kenobi definitely has PTSD, but I think a part of his pain is he wants to be proactive. He wants to have a purpose, So is it going to be more that temptation of he knows he shouldn't leave, but he decides to, or is he going to be in a place for Luke of just like, no, nobody should do anything? That'll be really fascinating to see. Yeah. So we get to see this vision of classic original trilogy Kenobi with the hood up at the campfire. So great. Then Obi-Wan breaks the silence. He says, "You're in the wrong place, Ezra Bridger." Ezra responds, Master Kenobi." Obi-Wan confirms, "I am," and with a patented hood removal, and then adds, "And when you have your strength, I'll help you on your way." So what's powerful about this initial interaction? Do you think Kenobi has been watching over Ezra for a long time, or just recently? Where does your mind go?
I have to think he was somewhat aware, and to the level which he's connected to the events of the time. Is he reading the morning paper over at Chalmun's Cantina and hearing all these about these rebel cells, and is he reaching out through the Force and connecting? I think there's some familiarity there between Kenobi and everything, and that's why I also love. And with that, I can't escape that it's very meta, that it begins with, "You're in the wrong place," because we all had those thoughts as fans, longtime fans too, going in this going, Ezra and Kenobi, how's that going to work?
Right.
That's I always took it as a little, not a wink like in a comical sense, but just like, no, we're acknowledging that this is something completely different there. So
he's basically saying like, let's not mess up the canon from a meta perspective.
You're not supposed to be here according to Wikipedia. So I love that. But So to the actual question of has been watching over Ezra for a long time, I tend to lean towards recently in terms of specifics. But overall, having a feel for what was going on. Does he have? Because is he connected with any force sensitive kid in the galaxy? Probably not, but maybe has some sort of sense of things going on.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea that he is meditating away and he is trying to see all of the different threads of what could be in the force, right?
Yeah.
Here is somebody who has a reason to question prophecies and worry about making assumptions about the future. So I like the idea that, he's probably, meditating, trying to be aware of other force users. And there's so much in this scene that becomes about who needs to be where when, and that
Mhm.
suggests to me that perhaps Obi-Wan has become aware of Ezra because he believes Ezra has a very specific destiny and that
Mhm.
this is not a part of the path. And not even, maybe it's as literal as, Obi-Wan has a vision of the future, or maybe it really is just a feeling in the Force,
Mhm.
a feeling combined with the knowledge of like, oh, yes, there's this rebel cell and you're a part of it. And Kanan Jarrus is there and that's good. That's a part of everything that needs to be. But it could be more literal. It could be that he is sensing how important Ezra's confrontation with Thrawn is. That
Mhm.
Ezra's place is Lothal. Home can mean family, but home can literally also mean Ezra choosing to make Lothal the place that he is protecting. But it's interesting to think also we don't know exactly where Ezra is going to end up yet, and
Mhm.
is there even more important role that Ezra has to play in facing his destiny and taking care of
Mhm.
his business, as it were.
Yeah.
I still think that there's some bigger picture things in store for the Ahsoka Ezra search reconnection. A part of me still wonders if one or both of them will end up at Mortis, and so maybe there is some bigger storytelling that Obi-Wan is trying to move him toward.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Both in again the general feel and just kind of, I'm not saying that Yoda's connected and Qui-Gon's like, hey, you guys all seen the news there? I don't necessarily think that, but being very aware of Ezra, but also like you said, very aware of where he needs to be shows that Obi-Wan's plugged in.
Yeah, yeah, and it makes me curious to see is the as we hear about the other Jedi or Force users that are still alive in this time. If Obi-Wan has opinions about, yep, that's Cal Kestis's path in this dark time. Here's mine. Here's Kanan's. Here's Ezra, and it's a dark time, but we all have our own destinies that we need to worry about.
Yeah.
I also just love the strength of it, where he rescues Ezra from the desert, and then he's basically like, hello there. Goodbye there. You need to leave now. This is basically the first thing he says in a gentle, friendly way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Ezra doesn't pick up on this immediately. Ezra responds, "On my way? No, I came here to find you, to warn you." Obi-Wan pats Chopper and says calmly, "About Maul?" Ezra shouts, "Yes." Then, reading the situation a little bit better, says, And Obi-Wan replies, "One doesn't survive as long as I have by being foolish or unprepared." Is that last line, is that a dig at Ezra, at young Force users in general? What does Kenobi saying, "One doesn't survive by being foolish or unprepared"? What does that say about what Kenobi has even learned about himself?
Yeah, it's so funny. You had that in the notes, and I was like, "Gosh, is it? Is it?" So, in the yeah, gosh, I watched the scene like 4 or 5 times just today, and easy peasy because I love it so much. And after kind of thinking about it, I think in a Kenobi way, is a little dig at Ezra. I think a lot of it's just like, hey, it's about his journey and what he's learned, and there's probably a literal like I could now build a campfire more than I could a while ago. I am prepared for a storm. Like there's a lot of little stuff, but I think overall it speaks to probably Kenobi's journey, parts of the story we've yet to learn, and kind of this like, hey, keep searching your feelings, know the whole picture. Calmness versus reacting. It does kind of read a little bit of just like, yeah, I know. Yeah. If you calm yourself down, you might know too of where you're supposed to be and all these things I'm telling you. I've been there, done that. It's not just old generation, new generation, old man, young man. It is, but it does have this like, yes, I'm aware of the whole picture, and you need to be aware of the whole picture too.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's got just this edge of snark where it's not a dig at Ezra.
Yeah.
I wanted to challenge us by asking that, like, is he just straight up insulting Ezra? Like, because it could be read as one doesn't survive as long as I have by being foolish or unprepared. The way you just were. I think it is not meant in that snarky way. I think it is a cautionary example of,
Mm.
yes, exactly as you're saying, you have to be aware of the big picture. And I Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi am telling you, young Padawan Ezra Bridger, very gently, that's a good thing for you to learn too. Throughout this scene, there is a great mastery, I think, of just the mood and tone that Alec Guinness and Lucas established together, particularly in New Hope. Like just the way he calmly says, "Oh, about Maul? Is that what you came here to warn me about?"
Mm.
It totally reminds me of the moment in A New Hope where Luke is trying to tell him how to find the message from Leia, and Obi-Wan's just like, "I think I found it." Like he's just like, "Yes, excitable young one, I am a step ahead of you."
Yeah. Yeah. No, and look, and the foolish line too, just like Ezra, as he comes to know, has done something rather rash. So it all
Yes.
ties together. Yeah, but great pull on just like, yeah, oh yeah, things, everything's crazy around me. Wait, you're talking about Maul? Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
That
I
was
got it.
yeah.
Yeah, and I also just feel like that's a part of what this is so fascinating about this scene to me, of this different tone and mood of Obi-Wan. It matches A New Hope, but I think there's other things going on in New Hope as he has this amazing experience for himself of meeting Luke and destiny finally moving forward. Uh, so there's this sense of utter calm about Obi-Wan. And I feel like there's something in this line, one doesn't survive as long as I have by being foolish or unprepared, where I think Obi-Wan has really learned patience. And in the prequels and in the Clone Wars era, the Clone Wars show, he has moments of great patience where he is actually patient. But there's also great scenes where he's preaching it to Anakin and Ahsoka, but he's not always following it himself. That
Mhm.
Obi-Wan himself can be eager and see a trap and want to spring it and want to push on everything. And so this line lands strong of, he's not just lecturing Ezra, he's not just kind of lecturing Anakin. This is really like, I learned the hard way because I have been impatient myself too.
Oh yeah. It's talk about seeing characters at different times in their lives and just wanting and needing to account for change and growth, or ebbs and flows, and their view of the world and what they want to do in it. I love what you're saying there. That's a great idea.
Yeah. So very excited to have Kenobi learning the lessons of patience and trying to pass them on to Ezra. He continues and gives Ezra some straightforward information, saying Maul is an old adversary and a persistent one at that. Ezra interjects, "We can fight him together." Obi-Wan says over his shoulder, "I had no intention of fighting him, though that seems inevitable now." Okay, so another thing that is not a dig at Ezra, but a comment on Ezra's actions.
Right, right.
Uh, why do you how do you think through that for yourself of why Obi-Wan wasn't going to fight Maul? What's the version of the way things play out where Obi-Wan doesn't fight Maul? He knows he's on Tatooine searching for him, but he just hides. He just stays out of it.
It goes to some of the things I remember you really pointed out back when the episode aired, of just what Kenobi's there for, and that's what triggers the need to ignite the blade. We'll discuss that here in a second. I wonder if it has this idea of where Obi-Wan is and what this fight is about. We always say compassion, empathy versus vengeance, growth versus stasis is a real big theme in the actual fight we're about to witness here. But so to me, coursing through Kenobi's veins over the last few, now almost 2 decades of being in the desert, of Maul is persistent, is a nice way of saying, killed the woman I love in front of me, killed my master in front of me. I killed him, comes back, still fights me. All these things going on, and how much he's released these feelings of regret, hate, vengeance, revenge, and his own desire to dominate, which he's about to talk about, that concept. But fighting Maul, killing Maul, particularly killing Maul, to me is a certain kind of power grab that Kenobi's not in the spot for anymore. Obviously ties into what he says later. So that version of where he doesn't have to fight Maul, to me, just means like, as long as Luke's safe, I don't need this ending. There's no fight here anymore between us. Now I think Kenobi is seeing what's coming again because of the bigger picture. But that's the version. I don't have the beat by beat of what what that conversation would have been. But Maul's there, and when Maul clues in onto that, as we discuss it here in a bit, that's what ignites the blade. But it ignites Obi-Wan's sense of what he has to do in this moment. But he's released all those feelings. There's no fight. There's no fight.
Yeah, no, I think that is so true, and we'll get to discuss how that all plays out so beautifully at the end of this scene. I think this is Obi-Wan again coming to that real sense of peace and purpose, and maybe really for himself learning his own personal lesson of the Clone Wars of just like, I am truly not going to engage unless I absolutely must engage.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it ties to even his quote in New Hope of, you can't win, but there are alternatives to fighting, of just like, I'm really good at hiding. I'm just going to hide myself from Maul. And, maybe Obi-Wan's hope is Maul dies alone in the desert. It's sad, but, it's conflict. Maybe if Maul goes into town and he's going to start slaughtering people to draw Kenobi out, maybe Kenobi will say, all right, you force my hand and I'll come stop you from killing people. Maybe you can get into that debate of pacifism is great, but when is inaction, not a choice for a Jedi as well. But I like that what's suggested by this is whatever version, however Kenobi pictured this playing out, he pictured a version where he did not need to engage with Maul, and the situation would have resolved itself. And from my assumption, that means also that Maul would not have really managed to hurt anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's the risk of exposing Luke and himself, and it's just not worth it. It's not a fight to be had, and the only reason I'm having it is because Maul's plan worked. He caused you pain. He trapped you. I came to defend you, and so here we go. Yeah, it's a great mood, a great emotion.
Yeah. We'll talk. We're in that part of the ForceCenter conversation where we want to start to get to other things, but a lot of with what Kenobi feels that Maul has done to things, affected the balance, the butterfly effect, maybe in effect. Maul could stomp around Tatooine all day. It does not factor into Kenobi's mission, his purpose, until it does, and I think that's part of that too, as we've been talking about.
Yeah, and we'll get to some of the other stuff starting now. So Ezra persists. He says, "You don't understand. You're the answer. The holocrons told me. They said you would be the one to help us destroy the Sith." And I think snarky Obi-Wan does strike here. He replies, it's the first I've heard of it. And Ezra pushes on, saying, "The rebellion needs you. We need you to defeat the Empire." And wise Obi-Wan answers, "What you need, you already have. Unfortunately, you seem to be letting it all go." Is this true? Is Obi-Wan right? This is diving more away from the Obi-Wan and the Maul of it to more of the Ezra and the Rebels story of it. What is Ezra letting go?
He's letting go of his purpose, of the journey he's been on. And this is kind of personal. Maul, the connection with Maul, and it's it's important to Ezra. But in what we're just talking about with Kenobi, of like, I have come to the realization of these last about 17 years here at this point in the story to know why I am here. And playful first I've heard of it. From a certain point of view, that's true. Kenobi helps Luke. Luke goes and destroys the Sith, like with Vader, doing the deed at the end. So yes, from a certain point of view, yes, definitely right. But what he's saying to Ezra is, it's like Ezra's letting go of where he truly needs to be, letting not just a side quest, but a real personal quest get in the way of the bigger picture. It's echoes. What you have you already need is obviously echoes the Rey story, so it makes it a timeless lesson. Just some different different edges to it. But I think that's Ezra's just so and again, no one's going to fault him. Kenobi's playing with him, but he's not faulting him. Destroy the Sith, to defeat the Empire. These are all big things. I have my part in it. You have yours, and why are you letting go of that path? You're getting it all confused.
Yeah, I like what you're saying there. I think he's being, a little playful, which is his way, but I think he is really trying to support Ezra while also kind of redirecting him to his path. I love this connection specifically with Rey in The Last Jedi constantly trying to give the saber away, and this is, I think in particular, that Ezra is on a path to do good things, to help people, to truly make a difference. And he's taking time out of that journey to basically go get Kenobi. And I feel like this is some classic master and apprentice, even though, Kenobi is not literally Ezra's master in the traditional way, that there's you don't need me. You need to follow your destiny, and you already have, I don't need to do your homework for you. You don't need me to watch you on the bike. You can pedal yourself. Like, I think there's some just real straightforward, you think you need the old powerhouse, and you don't. This is your fight now, energy there. And then I think for the actual story of Rebels, I think it's the literal, he is in a very important part of building the rebellion, of building this family. The whole, we're talking about this scene, but this whole episode is very much about Ezra going off on this sort of wild Kenobi chase versus staying focused on his family, Yeah. And I think there's this great energy in these ideas in Star Wars about what is your destiny? Is destiny something that is just preordained, or is it just that you are born into a certain situation, and because of that, because of who your parents are, because of where you live, or because of what gifts the universe gave you, you are going to encounter certain challenges. And I feel like there's a little bit of that in this, of you are going to go down the path that makes sense for you because of the relationship that you had with your parents, with Lothal, with the family you have now. That's your destiny, not just because it's some cosmic force. Here's where the strand goes. It's because it's who you are. It's because that's what you're connected to. So that's what you don't need to run away from that. You're doing what you need to for the life that you were, that is yours.
Yeah. It's interesting too. This isn't a review of the episode, but it's such a good episode. Obviously, I watched it in preparation for this. Hera says a lot of truth to Ezra early on, right? She's giving him kind of the old mom coach speech here of, you can't go. You're here with us, Lothal. It's your family, your people, and so, he doesn't listen to her. Later on, kind of does apologize for that, but it takes this whole situation, and Kenobi just kind of mystically saying, no, man. I got this. Don't worry about this. Not you.
I'm on my path. You're on yours. It's all good. You got a great path. So Ezra tries to understand. He says, but if I had what I needed, why would the holocron send me to you? And Obi-Wan lays it out. He says, they didn't. Maul did. Ezra takes it in, and like a good campfire counselor, Obi-Wan sits Ezra down with a gentle hand on the shoulder and explains, Maul used your desire to do good to deceive you. And in doing so, he has altered the course of many things. He knows your fears, your heart, and he manipulated the truth, which has led you here where you should never have been. So this is all, I think, reflects a lot of the great stuff that we talked about, of Obi-Wan being very clear that I have my path. Ezra, you have your path. He is making it clear that he's not criticizing Ezra. He is saying, you meant to do good, and you have fears, and you have a good heart and all that. But this is some of the most intriguing, ambiguous part of it to me. This idea of the many things and where you should never have been has this weight to it. It's not just like, wrong mission. I got this mission. You go do your mission. It's so much more a sense of fate and destiny to it. So how do you interpret that? How do you interpret the many things? And why do you think Obi-Wan is so set that Ezra shouldn't be there and it will alter things?
Yeah, this is where it really kind of, what you take out of it becomes real personal on some levels too. But just in Star Wars sense, I love that Kenobi's very certain about holograms didn't do it. Maul did, right? He's right. But I love there's just a little bit of just Kenobi kind of mulling it all over in his head. Just, man, you're here. And you and I talk often. You just mentioned it, destiny, the choice that's all along the way in that path of destiny. And this is where it starts getting personal for me, of just like, you have a desire to do good or desire to move forward in your life, but you move in different spots, and it's about the choices you make after you hit those paths, or the obstacles in your path. It's where it's more about. And I take a lot of that out of this scene of just like, you wanted to do good. Maul tricked you. He messed it all up. You're here. And yeah, I guess you could help me fight Maul. You might die. And then the rebellion or the burgeoning rebellion loses you in that path, and Lothal falls. And you could do that. You have a choice. I'm going to tell you to go because I'm Old Man Kenobi and I got the campfire and you listen. But, I think to me, Kenobi's mulling that all over. And it's also a lesson of, you could say from a spiritual aspect of just like life itself can mix it all up. And you could find yourself in a place where you're not supposed to be. And I'm not just talking about the bad side of the street or turning wrong turn in an alley, but a job, a relationship, someplace you just not good. And you've got to realize that you can get out of that. It's not just some fate locking you in. It's what you do after that fact. And I took a lot of that out of me for this scene. When it's just a fun canon thing, again, I think there's a lot of just like, nope, again. Wikipedia doesn't have you here. Never had you here. But there's some deep Star Wars philosophy that I took off the screen and put into my life. Of it isn't just like, well, this happened now. I'm here, or even with the good, like I want to get out of this job and I want to go to that job. Then I got there. Maybe this isn't the end of the journey. That it's not the next part that I thought it was, and I can still make the choice to move forward and be where I need to be.
Yeah, no, that's a great combination of the Wikipedia canon of Star Wars and the Wikipedia of your soul
Mm-hmm.
of the real life human journey.
Soulopedia.
Soulopedia. Look up where we should be in Soulopedia. Yeah, I think from a canon perspective, it can be really juicy to go, ooh, what does that mean? What things would have happened? What would the what if comic books or animated series of what was altered? For me, I think the big picture thing is just Ezra's on a good path.
Yeah.
But he was lured here, so now Kenobi's going to have this confrontation with Maul that he wasn't going to. If Kenobi hadn't intervened, maybe Ezra would have died. What would that have done just to the events of Rebels that we've seen so far? If Ezra fell to Maul's manipulation and turned to the dark side, what would that do? The biggest thing is like this is putting Luke at risk. If word travels of Maul's presence, who else is that going to bring? Like it seems like there's just like this is a lot about like this is really a dangerous move on the chessboard of destiny from Kenobi's perspective, canon wise. And then I love what you're saying for just real life stuff. Sometimes the Destiny talk, for me, there's a danger of misreading it to be stay in your lane, right? Of like, you've got a thing you're supposed to do, so stay over there and do it. And so the way I see this in a real life way is like, if I have someone in my life who is really connected to me and I need to help them. And then out of the good of my heart, I accidentally saw a DM for something going on at your house, Ken, and I just came over and inserted myself in it. It wouldn't mean that I don't care about you and want to help, but like I'm not needed there where I wasn't asked to be right now, even though I had good intentions, and I have people right in front of me who need me right now. That's the way I interpret it.
No, that's great. By the way, I'm so glad you're going to help with my dryer that's broken and back on the way. So thank you for coming over for that. And as far as the little kind of, you're so right about that. I think again when Kenobi's kind of mulling it over and just you see him kind of work through it, it's like we know what he's protecting, we know he's there, and Maul can't find that out and everything. Yeah, I think there's also grave danger too of just like a little bit of Kenobi kind of like, what are you doing here? We had this whole no. Go to Dagobah. No.
Yeah, we've got all these pieces in place. You're just go do your thing. And I don't think it's literally as literal as that, the way I like it in my headcanon of like he's seen all these threads, all these possibilities. But if it's as simple as, having the ability to use the Force is powerful, and you are helping to build a rebellion, and they truly need you. Just we can get into the cosmic of it, but it's also just like you're a Force user. You have power. You've made a choice to use it to literally physically help build this rebellion. Go back there. They need you. They need that power that you have.
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely.
So Ezra's still wrestling to understand a little bit, so he says, but the holocrons, they tell the truth. Do they? Obi-Wan asks. The truth is often what we make of it. You heard what you wanted to hear, believed what you wanted to believe. So this is some great classic Obi-Wan and his understanding of the truth discussion. How does this fit with Obi-Wan's much discussed certain point of view speech? Why do you think Obi-Wan feels so strongly about this idea of truth?
It'd be, man, I'm trying to find the, because it also goes into thoughts of like George changes the story a little bit and they toss this in, and it to me isn't a toss in. It's just a big life lesson here to see it continue to be built out in Star Wars storytelling of a funny little Kenobi quirk that's just really, really true. You heard what you wanted to hear, believe what you wanted to believe. How many times do we all experience that or see that in life to tie into that kind of conversation of just like, again, choice, destiny, all those kind of things we're talking about there. But we could influence ourselves a lot of times in a negative way. And I love that that's what Kenobi just is gently kind of trying to explain. Not to distrust the holocrons or distrust the force, but clearly this is Maul's influence. So you got to have that gift of discernment. That's the hardest thing, man, of knowing what messages are coming to you. And prophecies are misread, right? Man, that's something that's big in a lot of fantasies. And one of my favorite things about Game of Thrones, and I love when Star Wars dives into it too. See that red comet? It has 92 meanings for 92 different people looking at it. And you've got to kind of figure out the truth for the big picture, plug into the big picture, Ezra, and as well as find the truth for you. So that's it's all makes sense. It all ties to, ties to Obi-Wan's point of view on his experiences, what he's gone through.
Yeah, absolutely. I really feel the weight of you heard what you wanted to hear, believed what you wanted to believe, in taking some personal culpability in it of the holocron showed you something and then you added some things that you wanted to add. Wouldn't it be nice to think that, I go get this one guy from the desert, this old master, the weight is off my shoulders, the weight is off Kanan's shoulders. This old master will solve the problem. Great. Yeah. It's in a neat bow. Of course you'd want to believe that, right? And I think with Kenobi's experience, how much of this is him having some prophecy woe of saying, I wanted to believe in Anakin. I did believe in Anakin, but did I put a little bit too much blind faith or my own interpretation of I needed to believe that prophecy because Qui-Gon did, and I needed to believe it was as simple as at some point the Sith will reveal themselves, or we will find them, and Anakin will rise to the challenge and he will defeat them. I need to believe it, and then us having the benefit of knowing, if you interpret the prophecy as, Vader and Luke, as we'll talk about, work together to destroy the Sith, or Anakin rather, but after he was Vader, that's true, but not entirely true. You saw it the way you wanted to see it, of when the Clone Wars ends, probably we'll find the Sith and Anakin will take them down. That was a comforting thing for Obi-Wan to see, right?
Yeah. Well said, connecting to that fiery shore of Mustafar and just things Obi-Wan's experience, and just, again, going to some of the early lessons to Ezra of just pull out whole picture, see everything. And it's tough for us in the moment. Again, Ezra, every intention Ezra has here is what I would describe as good, and what I think Kenobi feels is good, and what Ezra knows, hey, I'm good. I want to do this. I want to help. Having that big picture, the life experience is what takes you from that shore in Mustafar to where Kenobi is now. Of it's not always how you want it because of what you think you see.
Yeah. And I love what you're saying. I think it's so important about this idea of being shown the same thing and then coming away with different understandings, because I think people can see Obi-Wan as being shifty, of going, well, that was my point of view. But I think what he's saying here in this holocron one in particular is the holocrons are showing them both the same thing. And that is a truth, but then they're interpreting it. So for me, it's not like Obi-Wan is, I'm going to lie and say it's just a truth from a certain point of view. So it's almost like if, there was a table that was true. There is a table. The holocron showed you a table. A lie would be somebody looking at that and going, it's a shirt. I have no evidence for it, but I'm just telling you it's a shirt. I don't think Obi-Wan is, defending an out and out lie.
Right.
I think what he's saying is two people can see a table and one can truly believe, because they need to, that it is the most beautiful, exquisite table ever made. And somebody else can see it and say, that is the most horrendous table ever made. It is the ugliest thing in existence. And that there is the risk, and all this stuff is important to me because I think it's some of what our conversation in the real world is right now. We need to be able to discern straight out lies. It's a table. That's a fact. It's not a shirt. That's a lie. There's that level of the conversation. And then once you get past that level of the conversation, then you're down to this even in some ways more crucial. We see the same thing, but we interpret it differently, as you and the comment in Game of Thrones is saying.
Yeah.
And I just really like that being. It's such a great Star Wars thing. I think it's the same. I think this holocron vision. There's so many connections between this storyline directly with Last Jedi. Of this is the same thing. Of I think Rey and Kylo saw the exact same vision. They saw the events that were going to play out, but they interpreted what they meant in the way they wanted to.
Yeah, there's a little bit of Kenobi to Ezra and Kenobi to Luke while he's sitting on that log of just like, we are all naturally going to have see something, table's a table, but we're all going to see the table and have different uses for the table or different ways you want that table painted, all those things, and how you react from it. Like that's where some of the discernment matters too. Luke, you're hearing this information and you heard what I told you, and how did you react to that? Ezra, you heard something and you wanted to react a certain way. You're looking for that fight, like how you react to those truths too is part of the Jedi philosophy to me here.
Yeah, absolutely. And one that Obi-Wan cares a lot about. Obi-Wan continues, and now the only one who has gained anything from all of this is, and from the darkness a voice rings out, Maul saying, me. We see his shadowy form, his yellow eyes glowing like little evil stars in the night sky. Ken, is this a good entrance, or is Maul being a little over the top?
I mean, the correct answer is it's a good entrance because Maul is being way over the top. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. This is a fight. This is the main event, tonight's main event. In one corner, in the other corner, wearing black and red all over his face. We got Maul. Yeah, I love that. It's great. And in my mind, I got to tell you, I want your thoughts on this too, for sure. I think Kenobi the whole time knows he's over there and knows that he ain't going to strike yet, and knows, maybe not exactly what's going to happen, but knows when maybe. I don't think Kenobi's stressed at all at that point.
Oh
yeah, there he is.
Yeah, he's absolutely waiting for him. For sure. And this is one of the things that I like about the way Maul was developed. I think it's hinted at in his performance in The Phantom Menace, but he just is a little theatrical, right? I mean, he goes on these kind of speeches, and it seems to enjoy, posturing and posing. So there is a little bit almost of good putting on a show, theatrical vibes from Maul. Like I think he's upset there wasn't a curtain there for him to push open. Maul. And I think it is. So this whole scene, of course, is benefited by where it's happening, and it feels like it's a desolate open space, and it's seeing the glowing moons and all the stars, and just seeing that little shadow of him is both terrifying and almost just like a little sad. It's like, it's not a big looming shot, it's not a big power shot. It's just he's just this kind of thin, slightly bent over frame in the darkness, thinking he's going to change everything now.
I think he's going to change. And I got to think, too, he's probably humming under his breath, like me. And these are Duel of Fates just humming in the mind. I like to think that that's actually a song he's aware of.
Absolutely. He's trying to hit that button on his saber that plays through a little tinny speaker, plays Duel of the Fates, but it didn't work. So he had to settle for saying me. As Maul appears, we are going to take a short break to build up the tension, and then we'll be back to finish our discussion of this great scene in Star Wars Rebels. We'll be right back.
Hey, Hey, ForceCenter friends, make sure you're keeping up to date on all the great content from Jennifer Landa. Whether it's YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok, you whippersnappers, ForceCenter's own Jennifer Landa continues to bring you fun, informative, and insightful laughs and moments.
Also, Jennifer brings her experience and perspective as a Star Wars-loving mother to her DIY projects, blogs, and more, so be sure to head on over to jennylanda.com, that's JENILANDA.com, for articles like how to make your own Darth Maul sneakers or 10 unique Star Wars baby gift ideas.
Follow Jen on Twitter and Instagram at Jennifer Landa, and on TikTok as Jennifer Landa 1138.
And we are back to finish our discussion of Kenobi's campfire of resolution. We're going to get on to the conflict, then the resolution. So Maul has appeared, Ezra stands, Obi-Wan pushes him back down, and he himself, Obi-Wan, stands and says, "You must go now." Ezra says, "I led him to you. Let me make it right." Obi-Wan says firmly, "That is not your responsibility. I will mend this old wound." "I will mend this old wound" on my first viewing is one of the lines that just hit me like a ton of bricks. Why do you think Obi-Wan uses this turn of phrase here? What is the power of this idea of "I will mend this old wound"?
Without thinking that Kenobi has the next couple minutes completely predicted or envisioned to him by the Force, I think the choice of mend, it's not about vengeance, revenge. It is about healing, compassion, empathy, and knowing why Maul has shown up in front of him. And hoping, again, I don't want to fight you. Probably inevitable, but I don't want to. And that this is the old wound is not just Maul's, it's Kenobi's too. He's got to miss Duchess Satine. He's got to regret some of that. And he's got to have worked through a lot of that Qui-Gon, obviously, as well, even though he gets to maybe communicate with Qui-Gon a little bit more than he does Satine, unfortunately. So it is a healing to me. It is all about growth and the growth of Kenobi, the stasis of Maul. Talk even a little bit more about that, how I think it's literally shown, but that's why I love that so much. Love to hear how it moved or connected with you, but it is a healing, even though it's a pretty final healing. But we've got to go that direction. We got to make it better.
Yeah, I think for me, it is everything that you're saying. It's kind of a, stereotype or trope for, a hero to say, "This ends now," right? In a big action moment. And I think just to hear this extremely peaceful, calm version of "this ends now," but just like, let's stop this, cycle that's hurt both of us. I'll mend this old wound. Really signifies, as you're saying, that this is not about anger or vengeance for Kenobi, that there's no sense of that. I think it's also affecting to me because there's an air of sadness to it, and just sort of like Obi-Wan shaking his head and like, it's just too bad that you and I have been put in a position to just hurt each other, and in awareness that, Maul, I know you have nothing but your desire for revenge, and because of the twist of fate and those all that energy, that all you want is revenge. It's all focused on me. And I'm even reminded of the episode of the Clone Wars where, spoiler for people who haven't watched the Clone Wars, that the episode where Maul kills Satine, where before he actually does it, where he's choking her and causing her pain, and Maul is expecting Kenobi to break. Kenobi does reach out in empathy, and he says there's definitely some defiance and pain going on with Obi-Wan, but he says specifically, "I've been to your homeworld. I know it wasn't your choice to join the dark side. The Night Sisters made that choice for you." So even back then, Obi-Wan had this empathy of like, every creature is responsible for their actions, but boy, you were taken young and tortured and had all this put in your mind. And he has empathy, I think, from Maul for that perspective of, but this is really sad that you have to be like this, and there's probably no hope for you to make a different choice now, but there's also some there's mercy and forgiveness to it as well, of just, it is the old wound in some ways, literally him being handed to the Sith. Is that part of the old wound he's talking about?
I think so. Empathy for Maul's origins, his beginnings. I'm so glad you pulled that from that episode. I think it's all there, as well as his own, and they're just the two different. Talk about the truth. There is a feud between Maul and Kenobi, and they each look at it in a very different way. Different way.
And it's a little bit of this is going to end here now, but gently. So Obi-Wan tells Ezra, ride north. That is your way out, your way home. Ezra and Chopper mount the dewback and head out while Maul waits patiently. Then Maul calls out to Ezra, see you soon, apprentice. Do you think Maul actually does hope to see Ezra soon?
I believe he feels he will, right?
Yeah.
I think the confidence of him in the fight, and the confidence being his weakness. Yeah, and I think it's also taunting. It's also like, haha, you thought you were going to come here I brought you here to save it. You feel bad. I'm going to kill this guy, and don't worry, I'll see you soon. And my plan will still be in action. It'll be going forward. And thanks for your part in it, sucker.
Yeah, I think it is definitely taunting, and I think it's taunting to Ezra of you're not going to escape me. You are going to break. You are going to go to the dark side, like I've been trying to get you to do. Try to break you. It's saying to Kenobi I'm still in my prime. I still have power. I'm going to cut you down real quick, and then you're not going to protect that kid. I'm going to go take him. I think all that is there, just standard dark side business. Yeah. But it's just for me in the mood. It's particularly in Rebels, it is a part of the Sith path to, find an apprentice and corrupt them and use them for power. But I always just sense this loneliness from Maul, that, again, this life was thrust upon him. He's never had the strength to make a different choice. But you go through his life, he's bound to Sidious. He chooses to kind of take his brother Savage Opress as a tool, but also, he feels for him. I have no idea what the relationship is, in canon with Kira. Is that just a manipulation of a tool, or is that some expression of loneliness? He tries to, at the end of the Clone Wars, manipulate Ahsoka to join him, and there's definitely an element of, yes, standard Sith, will turn against them, but all of it tracks through to me of there's this element of loneliness, and particularly with Ezra, that almost feels like, yes, I'm mocking you. I will break you. And also, then I'll have someone to talk to.
Yeah, it's the old, hey, the bully is perhaps hurting the most. It is all of that. I love that you said that. There's some real, I think there's some, I don't want to say connection, Maul and Ezra could have been the best of buddies. But they're leading up to this. That's why it was so powerful to Ezra. Why some of the stuff there. And the thing that's been kind of revealed lately, gosh, when was it? Was it comic book? You and I were talking about it, but just the idea that, Maul's carrying around that, I wasn't even good enough for the Jedi to find and train. They couldn't even come at me. And therefore I started the path that you're talking about with that Kenobi's aware of, just lonely pain. He just wants the comfort, just wants a hug, man.
Yeah. And I don't think it's like if Ezra broke and joined him, he'd be like, oh, I see, I have a friend now and I should do good. I just think there's this added element of, Sidious is not lonely. Sidious is calculating. Vader's furious at all times. And I think Maul's just got this slightly different flavor of dark side, where there's, all of the dark side manipulation, like he manipulated Ezra in this episode, but also just this little bit of loneliness that makes it even more poignant.
Big empty at the center of his heart, not by his own doing or fault at the beginning, but just continuously trying to fill it with the wrong things. Hey, it's a life lesson there too.
Yeah, exactly. So then the big showdown actually begins. Maul sighs and says to Kenobi, look what has become of you, a rat in the desert. And Obi-Wan responds, look what I have risen above, which made me think of the question, what has Obi-Wan risen above? How do you take that line, Ken?
First of all, I just love it. This is one of my favorite Star Wars moments right here. I just remember, watching it for the first time and just being blown away by But what Henry Gilroy and Dave Filoni were putting in there, and yes, excellently directed by Filoni as well. I love that line. Look what I've risen above. Talk about how you look at things, how you look at that table, the example that's going there. And what is he risen above? It's not just old man in the desert. And, it's not like he's Milhouse's dad got divorced and living in the apartment complex here, right? Trying to get rid of that single. No. I think Kenobi, from the halls of Coruscant and the Jedi Temple to, this dusty existence, not always at a campfire. He does have a spot, Maul. Come on, give him a break there. There's that literal stuff that he's written, but clearly, and this is the stuff again that you and I, no secret, want to be perhaps dealt with or touched upon in the Kenobi series, of just the failure, the loss, the pain, the loss of purpose, and how he can rediscover what his new purpose is. I really believe Kenobi, the series, will have that turning of the page and the starting of a new chapter, and how he gets to that point. You mentioned the shores of Mustafar to now. It's all about that, and that is what he's risen above. A colossal failure of him and his buddies, a colossal failure of the organization he believed in and served, and a colossal failure to his brother, the one he was training and mentoring, a big giant failure in his heart to him. He's risen above that to find new purpose, a new place in life. He's risen above the ashes of what was before. I think that's part of the powerful core of this theme and themes of this scene in this episode. And that's what I think he's talking about.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that Maul is really kind of going at this insult that might have worked on a younger Kenobi when, Kenobi is a little bit sophisticated. He is maybe a little bit overly prideful in both his abilities and in, the Jedi Order, the great Jedi Order with its elegant halls and temples. And I think that, Maul's going after like a status dig, right? Of, you were so powerful with your precious Jedi Order at the core of the galaxy, and Maul is still clinging for power and to be, surrounded by servants and wealth. And he's really kind of going at it on almost this literal status level. And I think, Obi-Wan responds in an entirely internal way of, basically saying, I have empathy for you, Maul, because I know what you've been through. And I understand why you hate me, but I, Obi-Wan Kenobi, have led a life of horrific loss. Qui-Gon, Satine, Anakin, the entire Jedi Order, my way of life. I had to question my own culpability in it all, and yet I still found peace and purpose and let go of any, silly notions of status being important. But who are you? What do you fight for? What do you stand for? I managed to make my way back to those purest of Jedi ideals, despite all of the pain and horror that I've been through.
Yeah. Love it.
Good job, Obi-Wan.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm stepping on you now a little bit, but I just love it. It was so well delivered, so well written. Such a Star Wars moment and a Star Wars story. It's such a life moment. If you can take stuff from it, I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Maul continues in his confrontation. He says, I've come to kill you, but perhaps it's worse to leave you here festering in your squalor. Obi-Wan responds with a now much-quoted line. If you define yourself by your power to take life, a desire to dominate, to possess, then you have nothing. I think the message of this line is clear. He is laying out a philosophy, but that line I know has resonated with you. It's really resonated with a lot of fans. Why do you think this particular line is so impactful for you? And in the story, why do you think it's so effective to anger Maul?
It is, without getting too far into the weeds of personal stuff with me, but especially in the last couple of years with old friends from my old line of work and just a different way of living. And I've never been a power hungry, monster truck driving. And by the way, I love monster trucks, not a problem there. But just like, I've had a pretty clear head of what I want out of life and control and power and everything. But I was sometimes surrounded by some people that are Maul in this moment. Anger, violence, and unless you win, you lose. And I love competition. I really do. I'm not, talk about the sports level. I love that, but I love the lessons in it. I love what it can teach you more than the win. I'm an act like you've been there before person anyways. I try not to, if I score a touchdown, I want to act like this is where I belong. Not that I'm ever going to get there again. Different conversation about sports. But I think Maul is on that side of he can only see this. He's only known this. And I think it's a change. Again, one of the big things about this fight is change and growing versus just stasis and perhaps stubbornness. A lot of things. So for me, I've almost quoted this back to friends in conversation. You and I grew up in the 80s. Greed is good, Garden Gecko, Wall Street, all that kind of stuff. That's not just contained to that decade. And Star Wars is always commenting on power and the Sith, Jedi. That's kind of the center of it. And Lucas's thoughts on the greed behind power, unlimited power. Take that scene, unlimited power, and play it against what Kenobi is saying here. Desire to dominate resonates with me. Of just the desire to impose your will of just on anyone or anything or any situation. The lack of compromise, the lack of seeing the big picture, Ezra. The lack of empathy, and you have nothing. You are just a ball of rage, like this Maul guy in front of him.
Yeah. If what you want is more, you will always be wanting, right? I think that's where like the nothing comes from. It's never going to be enough. It's why it's effective for at the beginning of Rise of Skywalker for Sidious to offer Kylo Ren everything, because that's what this philosophy will lead you towards, of just wanting more and more and more. I think you said a lot of great, powerful things about Star Wars and about the life lessons that it can teach you. I think this line is powerful because it is a concise summary of the dark side. It's just a really great mission statement for why the dark side is bad. But there are other moments of it. You can pull unlimited power. You can pull it from Luke and Anakin and Vader and Palpatine's final stand, and Rey saying, "You just want me to hate so much, but I won't. Not even you." It's a lot of great moments that it ties to, but this is just so clear and concise and personal. And I think because this is an intimate, personal scene between two people who have been on opposite sides and have hurt one another, that it's got great clarity and great emotional power for capturing this great big Star Wars idea that you can possess everything in the world externally, but if all you want to do is possess things to sort of enrich yourself, you will never gain anything internally. In that contrast of a sort of external life and an internal life. And for me, in real life, I agree with you. I think it's really powerful. I mean, the power to take life. Okay, that's not a thing that I've run into too much in my life as a comedian and a writer, but definitely, if you define yourself by a desire to dominate, to possess, then you have nothing. I feel like I have encountered that, and I have had to fight that in almost every creative pursuit I've ever done, where it is very easy to start down a path and say, whatever it is, improv comedy, script writing, podcasting, whatever it is, to just start saying, I want to do a good job. I want to connect with people, and I want it to be fulfilling. But then you look over and you see your neighbor who you think has more, and you want that, and you want to prove that you are the best at whatever thing that you are doing. And slowly but surely, the actual soul of what you want to do recedes, and it just becomes about this desire to dominate, this desire to feel like you, as you were saying, can only be winning if someone else is losing. And I think that's also why it's really powerful, because this is one of those moments of Star Wars where it translates to standard and mundane things in life in a way that, on the surface right away is like, how do space wizards relate to my good or bad choices in an improv group? It relates always, to not define yourself by needing to have the most, needing to be better than someone else, or needing to control someone else.
Yeah, I'm so glad you went in that direction, because I was going to come back with that too, of real world stuff, beyond just the big concepts and power. And by the way, I've seen you kill on stage, so you have killed on stage. All right, but yeah, no, it is, and yeah, you bring to the force the podcast or Force Center, like, to specifically that is like, it's always been easy. It's a step away for you and I. We love checking numbers, research, and we recently passed, I think, 2 million total downloads. We thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, but that's not us. That's all of you. We're not downloading the podcast 2 million times. You are, and it's easy for you and I. We could get caught up in that. Jennifer too. Get caught up of who's watching our TikToks. If you're Jennifer and her wonderful TikToks, she had a great Baby Yoda cookie one this week going around. You and I could look at the rankings, or look who else is getting guests, or who else is got a retweet. It's so easy and to reach for that power, because Palpatine, man, unlimited. We want to be the number one podcast in the land. I think at some point, you and I have never been toppled by that, but we can have our days. And you out there can have your days, maybe with your podcast, your Star Wars podcast, or your job, or your house, and your neighbor has a better yard than you, and you want to keep up with the Joneses. This is where that Star Wars universal theme stuff really works. And I, in the last year, out of a dark place, which is the post Rise of Skywalker reaction, really lived this line in terms of that, of just like, I got to make sure I'm not here for that my will and opinion of Rise of Skywalker, strong as it is and as grumpy as it can make me when people disagree, that's not what it's about. I don't want to dominate that. There's no need to dominate that conversation. What is here is to sit on Force Center and just talk about why we love it, or talk about what we get from it, and talk about what it means, and just live in that and see where that takes you. See, we're around a campfire, the podcast version of a campfire. Not in the halls of Coruscant. And literally, it's not just you and I talking about it. I've thought about that. I've thought about this line. This is I think it is my favorite Star Wars quote now, because it goes into a lot of different areas.
Yeah, just so much clarity and emotion. And the final thing I'll say about it is, I love your yard analogy. Maybe that is in some ways what I struggled toward, because I think there is this fine line of, and we've discussed this when we talk about competition, but yards, like, if I was a person who enjoyed cultivating a yard, I think it is absolutely great that I put all of the energy I have to making the most beautiful yard I want for myself. And if other people come and see it and enjoy it, that can be a goal, and that can be wonderful. But the point is, where I look over at my neighbor's yard and I want my yard to kick my neighbor's yard's ass.
Yeah.
That's where it becomes, it's not about me making a beautiful yard for my own joy, my own sense of setting a goal and meeting it, or to maybe have other people enjoy it. It becomes about beating the neighbor's yard. And that's when you're starting to tip into Maul territory.
Yeah. Maul is really jealous of Kenobi's campfire. That's just what it's about.
Well, I mean, and there is some great status thing here of, like, if he's saying it's worse to leave you here festering in your squalor, like, Maul doesn't get it, of just like, your robes are dirty, gross.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting throw your TV out the window and go live in a van down by the river. Some people do that and find great peace. If that's your journey, that's your journey. I'm not suggesting that, but there's the Yoda thing to Luke, like, your mind's never on where you are, buddy. You always that's dangerous. Wanting even if your intentions are good, like Ezra's are, it's dangerous, man. Focus on where you are and be happy with what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, great examination of why that line is powerful. We took a great trip through yards and improv comedy and all sorts of other places. But that is really the power, I think, of this scene in this line. And it is very effective in enraging Maul. I think that, for me, that is because he's cutting to the quick of, this is what you might not be willing to admit it, but this is what you're feeling now. You have lived your life, Maul, in this desire to be more powerful than everyone. You started as this Sith that was going to help take over the entire galaxy and slaughter all the Jedi, and you were going to rule all. And then that didn't work, so you started another crime syndicate and another crime syndicate, and you tried to manipulate Ezra. And here you are, all these years later, and all you have is your desire to kill me. And if you do it, what are you going to have left? I'll be dead. Then what are you going to want? To kill something else? So I think he gets through to Maul a little bit. I think that's why this is, very close to the inciting line of the actual fight, of pissing him off. So Maul grunts. He pulls the cane part of his double-bladed saber away. He ignites it. And he cuts at the sand, extinguishing the campfire. And Maul yells, "And what do you have?" Obi-Wan does not respond. Maul continues, "Why have you come to this place? Not simply to hide. Oh, you have a purpose here. Perhaps you are protecting something. No, someone." And then we get a close-up of Kenobi, and we just see the blue light cast on his face as he ignites his blade. This is a very thrilling moment for me. Is this a thrilling, fist-pumping moment for you? And if so, why?
Oh yeah, it's the boop moment. Like, here we go. And here's the thing: it's so thrilling, it's so good. This is why I pointed out that right from the get-go, you were like, "Hey, what is the reason why Kenobi ignites it?" I was so excited, so ready to see the fight. That's one of those little details I've missed. I quite frankly, I've always said, I know I've learned to hone hone those skills and how to watch from you over the years, because I can get caught up in the hold my beer. This is going to be great. But it is. We also have to acknowledge, you and I, we always talk about being at the Star Wars bar of conversation. Most of our conversations are taking shots and going, "Wasn't that cool?" Let's not lie here. But so it's a deep moment. We'll discuss it. But man, that blade, you don't even see the blade, right? It's just the blue. Oh yeah. Man. Oh, here we go. The bell is rung. The match has begun.
Yeah, it's just the sound and the light on his face. And I think for me, yeah, exactly what you were saying. This is the promise of Yoda's line to Luke of always for knowledge and defense. This is pure defense. This is the reason he's out there. He already, helped Ezra. He sent him on his way. If Maul got angry and just left, fine. Obi-Wan's not going to chase him down. If Maul just wants to kill Obi-Wan, who knows exactly how Obi-Wan's going to handle it? This is about Luke. This is about defense. And he absolutely waits until it is crystal clear that Maul is a threat to Luke Skywalker. So for me, it is a thrilling moment of that is a Jedi who only ignites their blade when it is absolutely, clearly, unambiguously a time and a moment for defense. And then for the Star Wars fan side of it, there is the great hold my beer excitement. I gotta put this drink down so don't spill it. Excitement for here we go. This is going to be the fight. But there is also that thrill of growing up for us with the original trilogy. Then, thinking, Darth Maul's really cool from the prequels. Too bad he wasn't, he's only in one movie. Then he comes back in the Clone Wars, and to go through this whole journey to get to a point where Darth Maul from the Phantom Menace just threatened the life of Luke Skywalker. But Obi-Wan Kenobi is going to stop him. That's just some great lifelong Star Wars fan. And I'll say lifelong, even if you've only been a fan for 5 minutes. I think it's a similar thing. Just the power of that. In the world of Star Wars is really affecting.
Oh, totally. And the look on Kenobi's face, it's done so well. Of just, someone. And Kenobi's just like, all right. Nope, not today. Not today.
Yep. That's what I was waiting for. I have to do this. Yeah. What do you think it says about Maul that he does successfully and quickly guess Kenobi's purpose?
I was thinking about that. First of all, give credit of just like he's insightful. This is a vision. You have this ability. You're connected to the Force, and like a lot of Sith, you go this direction. To me, it's like, yeah, you're there. You kind of get it. You're smart cookie. You're a smart cookie, but you just want to ruin the meal here. And that's maybe a little offbeat look at it from me. But I just it's kind of like, yeah, you're not dumb. You're not dumb. And even then, how it also too doesn't even matter to Maul. He didn't pick up on it until then too. Is also an example of Maul's just this blunt object of rage too. And he's insightful, but he's also a little late to the game too. He's so offended by what's going on in him.
Yeah, and I think that's a really great way to say it. Is that Maul is a fascinating character, and all Darksiders are fascinating because they rely on rage and anger and moving forward. But then Sidious is really showing them but you have to combine that with planning and cunning to actually, make it really pay off. And I think we get to see Maul become more and more cunning and trying to figure out what's going to happen next and moving the chess pieces into place. And I think this is that moment where he's kind of just in blind rage. Like, I found him. I get to kill him. I get to hurt him. Great. But then he has to stop and go like, wait, but he's really, really not taking the bait. What's going on with him? And then that intuitive part kicks in, that cunning part kicks in. And then I think it just kind of illustrates that he does actually know Kenobi well, that he does actually, understand him on some level. And in a way, it makes it even more sad again of like, the tale of the enemies who are kind of tied together and know each other almost as intimately as friends, but it's all through the filter of this constant conflict.
Yeah. And sorry. Yeah, we can go on the long tangent of Maul too, but I just love to out of all that we've just talked about, where it's like, God, Maul, you can't even see it. Like, you think he's here defending a fire pit? Like, come on.
Yeah, it's just like he's just still bummed out. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
Could be, but he does successfully figure out why Kenobi is there, and successfully, from Maul's perspective, I think he thinks he has baited Kenobi into a fight that he is going to lose. So then we have a great display of lightsaber tension. Just like his younger self, Obi-Wan twirls his blade and adopts that familiar fighting stance from his Clone Wars days. Maul ignites his second blade and spins it, and then we see this flat shot of the figures in profile facing off. This is a very traditional samurai warrior shot. It is straight out of Kurosawa, which gets talked a lot about in Star Wars because a lot of creators, Lucas, Filoni, Favreau, Rian Johnson, pulling ideas and images straight from Kurosawa. But this particular image of the warrior on either side with a flat shot, we're seeing it here. It's in The Last Jedi. It's Ahsoka and Morgan Elsbeth in Chapter 13 of The Mandalorian. To you, what is the power of this framing of this figure on either side in profile with the flat shot building the tension before the fight?
It's classic for a reason. It's poster worthy. It's also a reminder of it helps me focus on what are they fighting for. It's a good way to frame it. What's the theme? What's the fight? What side are they on? And not just help build the tension of the moment to me, but just really highlights, again, Luke and Kylo. Just, what is Luke standing in front of? What is Kylo trying to get to? I love just those classic kind of this classic use of this style.
Yeah. I think I think you're exactly right. I think it is about like different camera angles invite us to see things in different ways. The language of cinema, that's, some of it I think is just intuitive and some of it has been developed over time. But, a shot from below is a hero shot, and a shot at the two figures from above gives you this like bird's eye view with a shot just peeking around a corner makes you feel like you're maybe seeing something you're not supposed to. And I think this framing, because it's so bare and there's nothing but the two figures, it's almost retreats back to this place of neutrality, like you're seeing a stage play on a proscenium where it's just it's flat and you decide what is happening within that frame. And I think it invites you to just assess those figures of who are they, what is going to happen in this fight based on who they are, and most importantly, like, what do they represent? What are they fighting for? And I think it's really, really successful, particularly successful here where we know a lot about Maul and Kenobi, and we have the weight of the history and the color of their blades, and they become not just two cool Star Wars characters who are about to fight, but they become the symbols of their different perspectives. And there's this great, stillness and almost peace before just the chaos of action. And they're assessing one another, and we, the audience, are assessing what they mean.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So great samurai shot, very enjoyable. And then after, great tense moments of staring at one another. Obi-Wan changes his fighting stance to a similar pose of his master Qui-Gon Jinn when Qui-Gon fought and fell to Maul. When Obi-Wan changed the stance, was this a cheering moment for you when you first saw it? And how does it affect you on rewatches?
Great cherry moment because it's the Qui-Gon thing, but on rewatches it just has grown and grown and grown, and this is there's I'll talk about a little bit about the actual fight, and there's going back to the time frame which this episode aired and the way discussions of Star Wars were, and quite frankly still are. This is one of the big moments this episode I look to of. Not right or wrong. I got to say this carefully. Done a lot of talk this episode about not wanting power, but how I personally take in Star Wars and then dig into what it means and dig into, the themes and lessons, and everything. And again, all the things that we've just rolled out here in Force Center, that fateful day where you come. Can we discuss the themes of Force Awakens? I've changed. I've changed a lot because of you, changed a lot because of Jennifer, and a lot of our because of our fan base and how people have reacted to it. It would be so simple, and oh my God, he's doing Qui-Gon. He's going to get revenge for his teacher. Yeah, I don't see it as that anymore. I see it. I see it just as a fan. I really do believe this is about the fight. The core of the fight is growth versus stasis, the inability to change. This is Kenobi going, I know who you are because who you were then is still who you are. So I'm going to go in a Qui-Gon stance because I bet you're still thinking about it. I bet you'd think now, yes, I've defeated that stance before. And I know exactly what you're going to do because you have not changed where I have grown. I really think this is the core of the fight for me. That's why I love this moment.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think it says so many great things about the nature of the dark side. This is about rigidity, in inability to grow, a lack of imagination, a certainty that rage and strength and speed and power and all these kind of more surface level things are the path to victory. That's why the dark side is stronger than the light side. And Obi-Wan, who, in my imagination is, after years under those twin suns and everything he's been through, he's feeling a little weaker. This isn't Obi-Wan jumping up and down and I am going to match his energy and his speed and surpass it the way he tries in The Phantom Menace. He has grown, and this to me is the second part of why I love this scene being an ultimate Jedi moment. Obi-Wan only ignites that blade to defend, and the way he's going to win this battle, the way he's going to use the Force, is knowledge. This is, I just hear Yoda ringing out, to Luke of use it for defense and knowledge. He knows exactly what Maul is going to do, and he takes the time and he looks and he reconsiders and he uses his knowledge of Maul and his knowledge of the past and his knowledge of lightsaber forms. And it becomes immediately, as soon as he changes stances, it's not about speed or power or strength. It's about knowledge. And Obi-Wan knows some stuff that Maul doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it is definitely a cheering moment for me now. I think as I was first watching, I was like, ooh, he's changing. Is that the stance? Why? And still, really wondering how they were going to actually handle the fight. In rewatches now, it's a fist pumping moment because it is a triumph of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Any other thoughts on that before we move into the actual fight?
No, because we'll move on.
So the two old foes still stare at one another even after that stance change. This is a great Kevin Kiner music moment. There's sparse tinkling notes in these intermittent drums that are building the tension, and then with a combination of a grunt and a roar, Maul leaps into battle. One blow, a second blow, then Maul goes for that same move that worked on Qui-Gon, smashing his hilt into his opponent's head, and Kenobi strikes, his blade cutting Maul's lightsaber in half and down Maul's chest. 3 strikes, and it's over. How do you feel about how quick the fight is at this point? And back in the day when you first watched this, or now, is there any part of you that still wanted a larger battle?
Back in the moment in the day, yes, I thought we were getting Phantom Menace Part 2 for 10 seconds after, or longer. All right, fine, 10 minutes after. Probably even the next day. This is back when I was doing a weekly review show over the old job. And this is even more specifically what I was mentioning of just knowing also just, hearing Filoni describe like, look, this is kind of like a real sword fight. This is like a samurai sword fight. And they're not all crouching tiger, hidden dragon. They're mostly this in real life, right? Like that was intentional, but also what it means. Everything that you just said about knowledge and the things I'm saying about what Kenobi knows and what this fight is about dictates that it was not going to be long. That was the point. That was the purpose. And this is one of those indicators to almost take it outside of the fun, joyous conversation we're having here, Joseph. I apologize. But going back to this day, this time frame, we're in the 2016, 2017 range, right? When this is out, we are not yet to Last Jedi, if memory serves. And to see some of the reaction to this, like, it was so short. I was bummed. Which, by the way, great normal reactions, because in that moment I had it too. But this is where I think it's just rewarding to go deeper. I really do. And to see what this is about and listen to what the creators are trying to tell you, what they're trying to show you, and the choices they made to tell this story. It's really powerful. And this is one of those little dividing line moments where I thought you could have gone, and you still can go to it should have been longer. Great, solid opinion. I want to know why and how you envision that would have played out. And what's the story behind that? That's knowledge, growth, compassion comes a little bit later here. Empathy, we've already got a little bit of that. It's going to factor into it. But all the things you're talking about, knowledge that this guy didn't grow, that's the story here. That's why it needed to be this short.
Yeah. Yeah. And Kenobi's knowledge that he didn't want to take this action, but he had to defend Luke. So the only point of this battle for Kenobi is to end it as quickly and kindly as possible, right? So looked it up. The air date, according to Wikipedia, was March 18th, 2017. So yes, before The Last Jedi, which is interesting because, again, it's a lot of stuff just visual idea-wise that really have a great conversation between this episode and The Last Jedi. I think this is, to me, a scene and a moment that represents one of the great tension of Star Wars. And I don't think tension is always a bad thing. It is something that makes it's a reality that things are always in tension. It's one of the ways the Force is described is it's that tension between all things. I think one of the tensions in Star Wars is a part of Star Wars is the fun and the thrill of huge jaw-dropping acrobatic fights. And I love those. Yeah. But then there's the tension on the other side that the philosophy is from the Jedi, from the Force users, particularly the ones who have found peace and purpose, is that's not to be craved. It's fun for us as viewers to see and discuss and fantasize about as an escape. And it's, visually and aesthetically beautiful and interesting and all those great things. There's nothing wrong with liking watching it. Mm-hmm. But the philosophy of the characters is, that is not to be desired. A great day for me is if I never have to ignite my lightsaber. And if I do, to end the fight as quickly as possible, because fights aren't to be enjoyed. Mm-hmm. They're a really sad thing that has to happen sometimes. And I think this is what's just getting to the absolute core of that. Obi-Wan doesn't crave vengeance. He doesn't crave excitement. It's not, I'm finally getting you. He doesn't want to prove that he's still got it. He just wants this to be over.
Yes, going back to the blue of the lightsaber, and again, in that moment, in that thrill, missing why he's doing it. It is okay to think in that moment, oh God, Obi-Wan is going to kick his ass. That is not why Obi-Wan's doing it. It's to defend Luke, to keep in that purpose, as we talked about. Again, I'm remixing it a little bit there, but it all flows into that there of the why.
Yeah. And again, I always want to be really clear on this. I think it is okay to be supportive of the philosophy and the moments where Star Wars storytelling really leans into that. And then there are times where Star Wars is telling a story about people in a different place, and we get to see these big, exciting, thrilling action scenes. And I think I enjoy both, and I think that's fine. I only take one as instructional. For how I want to try to be. If it makes sense in the story for the rematch between Kenobi and Vader in the Kenobi series to be a big epic fight, and it makes sense in the story, I will enjoy the hell out of it. But that's not what this is to me.
No, this is, and look, High Republic's already gotten some great action, and we're going to see Jedis at height of their power. And again, Lucas is saying, the fights in the prequels are Jedis and Sith at the top of their game. Literally, you got Old Man Kenobi and Old Man Maul. They got some back problems, probably keeping them from flipping about here in this fight too, right? It's all into it. Yeah, without a doubt. I know you and I we're not in the room with everyone listening, so we want to make sure that's kind of part of this. It's just like, no, there's so many aspects of Star Wars to enjoy, and there's not necessarily right or wrong ways. I just really believe in my heart this is where it can get really rewarding when you dig into what's there. And this was the moment. I remember sitting on set of that other show, just being like, but I love this.
Yeah.
What? You just want to watch the same thing again from Phantom Menace? No, I love this.
Yeah. Yeah. And just going to kind of a almost nerdy canon, I really like that Kenobi in his later years is like, lightsaber, it's great. You can flip around and be clever and all that, but lightsaber fights are little chess games, and they're about testing the other person. And I feel like this style of fighting, this much more samurai chess move, translates to what Kenobi is doing in A New Hope, and it has made me enjoy that fight even more, because like he's not thinking he can even remotely take it to Vader. He is just keeping Vader busy, and he's testing him, and he's testing to see like does Vader still hold any fear of me? That's a chess move lightsaber fight to me, and so is this one in a specific kind of way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So back to this great scene. Maul takes it in for just a beat. What has happened to him? Almost as shocked as the audience. Then he drops his blades and collapses. Kenobi catches him before he can even hit the ground, and Kenobi holds Maul in a very similar pose that he held two people close to him that Maul killed, Qui-Gon and Satine. So, Ken, to you, what is just the power of that pose of not letting him fall to the ground, but catching him before he hits the ground?
This to me is almost literally a mending of the wound. This is, whether it's super intentional, and chances are there's a lot of intention behind it. But that includes the Satine. Already have the Phantom Menace out there in the world, so you animate the Satine sequence, and you can easily go, well, let's have it similar to the Qui-Gon death. But to just even having it be in the same ballpark as those two previous deaths is about mending the wound. Kenobi isn't kicking dirt on him, isn't relighting the fire and throwing him there face first into there. Like he is mending the wound for both of them. One of their journeys is ending, fortunately. Something he didn't necessarily want, at least not one of his own hands. Something he had to do. But Kenobi answering all that pain in his own life and not letting it get in the way of compassion. It is a symbol to me of all that.
Yeah. I think the pose being similar is a great way, just visual storytelling, to drive it home that empathy is always impressive. And I think empathy can always be a challenge, but to have this much empathy for someone that Kenobi has so much reason to hate, and Maul killed Satine specifically to try to break Kenobi, to bring him this pain. And for this to be, this is what I have risen above. It's truly sad that it came to this. I don't want this, and I want to give you whatever comfort I can in your final moments. I couldn't allow you to attack Luke, but I didn't want this, and let me give you as much comfort as I can, even though you have caused me great pain. Just that high level of empathy. And when you think through it, in anything close to real world terms, imagining having this much empathy for somebody who has caused you that much pain is really amazing.
It ain't easy. None of the things and lessons we're talking about here are easy, which is also part of the Star Wars story.
Exactly. So in Maul's final moments, he kind of begs, I would say, tell me, is it the Chosen One? And Obi-Wan responds, he is. Maul gets out his final words, he will avenge us. And Maul dies. Obi-Wan gently closes his eyes and continues holding him under the pale light of those Tatooine moons. So, did Obi-Wan succeed, Ken? Did he mend the old wound?
Yes, I think so. And I've always gone back to the final words of he will avenge us. Like if Maul had said, oh, that feels great. Yeah. Or, oh, then I will die in peace. It would have been a lot nice little button. It's not. It's Maul in his lifetime of pain, lifetime of suffering, lifetime of pursuit of power and vengeance. Can only see it in that way. He will avenge us, but there's great peace in that for Maul, and the fact that he includes Obi-Wan and an acknowledgement of the pain that Obi-Wan's experienced, often at his hand, but all part of it, and where it comes from. Not Sith, dark side, Palpatine, Vader too. At this point, Maul's definitely aware of Vader. So, yeah, I love the use of us, and that undercuts any lingering spite that Maul has for the world with the word avenge. And that's why I almost like it even more. It keeps in line with Maul and his experiences, but where he is at that moment. And yes, comes out of Obi-Wan saying that prophecy you've heard about. It's him. Again, we can talk about what Obi-Wan really, really believes. And I do believe he thinks Luke is the chosen one, at least at this point. And obviously used to think it was Anakin. But yeah, that allows Maul to think to get the piece that in the way that he understands.
Yeah. I think great pointing out that he will avenge us. I think that Kenobi mends the old wound as much as he can, and Maul could be screaming out, right? Not, I guess not. He's not quite capable of screaming, but he could be still just railing against Kenobi, right? But he does. He asks for that little bit of, what could give him solace in these final moments. Maul is kind of asking for it, for a little bit of solace. And I think Obi-Wan gives it to him. Obi-Wan could just not respond. Obi-Wan chooses to give him the solace that Maul is asking for. And then Maul reflects that by saying us, and including Kenobi, I think is a great perspective and insight. And I really love this because it is the classic from a certain point of view. It's a little bit what Obi-Wan was trying to teach Ezra, of Obi-Wan understanding, like, Maul is not capable of turning away from anger and revenge. But in his final moments, I will try to meet him as close to halfway as I can, of there is this truth, which we believe Obi-Wan believes, and we know from the story is of Star Wars, of the Skywalker saga, it does have truth to it, that Luke is the new hope, and Luke will be a great challenge to Vader and Sidious, and people who have hurt both Obi-Wan and Maul. And from Obi-Wan's point of view, that truth is about hope and light. And from Maul's point of view, that truth of Luke Skywalker's power and potential is all about vengeance. And it's just so moving that, Obi-Wan doesn't try to correct him. He doesn't try to withhold it. He just tells him, yep, my truth, that for me is about light and hope, you can only see as revenge, but at least we can both agree on it, giving us some solace about the future. Not from the same perspective, but we can agree on this truth. And, that's as much as I can offer you, is in the fact that he does is just really beautiful.
It's heartbreakingly beautiful. Beautiful.
So you are in the camp that does believe that Obi-Wan is not just saying that for the sake of Maul, but Obi-Wan now at this point does believe Luke is the chosen one. Why do you think Obi-Wan believes that now?
I think it's going to continue to evolve, and maybe old Force Ghost Obi-Wan in Bright Tree Village is like, oh yeah, okay, I see. It was maybe a combination. And I always joke that, clearly Kenobi has not heard George Lucas talk about who the chosen one was. He believes it with all of his heart on Mustafar. And up until then, there was every once in a while Kenobi had some doubt, right? But he's really convinced and convicted. His convictions are strong in that moment of when he's screaming, "You were the chosen one." To have this now, and again, the Maul, you explained it very well. Just in this particular moment, I believe Obi-Wan thinks it, but I love it's the follow up. It's the staring out at Luke as Beru, or was that Maude Garrett? I don't know. Maude used to do that impersonation so well of Luke. We get to that. It's almost like, follow me here. Like, did Kenobi says that, and a lot of what you're saying, I really totally agree with. Like, I'm going to say this. I believe this. Not time to fight. You're going to take from what you need. Excuse me. But that he's watching Luke going, yeah, now he's the chosen one. At this point, he's the chosen one. And how many times has Obi-Wan had that conversation with himself? And will that be an episode of Kenobi? I don't know. Of just, what does that prophecy mean? As I looked up that comment, what did I take from it then? And what do I need to take from it now? And what is true? And is it a combination of both and everything? And can he foresee that Anakin will swing around the end and be the chosen one in the final moment, And that's all that's going through his head. I don't think Kenobi has it like, yep, no, he's the chosen one. He's still asking himself the questions. I think that's part of the end of this scene in this episode when he's staring at the homestead. But I believe he's come to the conclusion that for right now in this moment, he's the chosen one.
Yeah, I believe that too, and I think that just is down to the power of the voice acting and the direction that I believe it. It sounds utterly sincere. Everything about this scene of peace and purpose makes me think that he's not saying something for Maul's benefit. He's only saying something true that they can get as close as possible to connecting on. But so I believe that Obi-Wan totally believes it. I think there's some interesting, is this the truth that he needs to hear? That yes, Anakin fell, but the light never dies, and there is this new hope. Certainly believes that, but going to that next level of the chosen one, the prophecy, I think there is the possibility that the Kenobi series will deal with this. That this comes out of a specific experience or understanding of the Force, that Obi-Wan believes that Luke is the chosen one. And yes, George Lucas, the creator, is on the record saying, no, it's Anakin.
Yeah.
But I really, I like the idea that Obi-Wan is right. Luke is the chosen one from a certain point of view, because without Luke's actions, it would not have been possible for Anakin to return and fulfill the prophecy. And it's one of the great stories I love about Kenobi is we see him here with such peace and purpose. And I believe that Kenobi believes with all of his heart that Anakin is gone. And that adds to this scene for me as well.
Yeah, I think there's also, this is really, really going down the headcanon path, but how much does he believe Luke's the chosen one, but want to leave enough room to not put that pressure on Luke?
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly, I think that's everything about that A New Hope scene for me. If, I understand people who find it a little sketchy, and it's a moral gray area. I am open to many interpretations, but I think it really is that. How do I give him what he needs without burdening him? Like, by the way, so your father had this prophecy. He dropped the ball. I really think you're the guy with the prophecy. You're like, yeah, that's hard to go in on. So that is really the scene, but I wanted to do a couple of wrap-up questions. Because this is a thing that got discussed a lot at the end of this episode. Ezra returns, and there's a nice button to his story about him feeling like he is where he needs to be with his family. Nice tender moment. Even Chopper gets in on the act of putting a gentle hand appendage on Ezra. Do you think Ezra tells anyone about Kenobi, and would it matter if he did?
I think this is I never really, despite watching this episode many, many times, this is why I love doing these shows with you, buddy, because I've never really stopped to think about this. In the beginning, everyone's talking about Kenobi. No, Senator Organa said he died, and Rex going, believe me, my old buddy Obi, I'd love if he was alive. So I would have to think Ezra at some point would be like, hey, Rex, come here. Or does Ezra know that, hey, after what I just experienced, like if I can't go over there, no one else should either, in a way. Not keeping Rex from his buddy, but like, look, we all got to be on this path. So is there a conversation where Ezra does tell Rex? Rex is like, we're going. Nope. You can't. And does Rex accept that and all that kind of stuff? You know what I mean? Like, I imagine he can tell it to Kanan, and Kanan would have a pretty clear a vision of what it all means. But and Hera too. And later on, is that why Mon Mothma's like, hey, Bail, I heard you got a friend? Or is that I've always just taken it as Bail and Mothma. No, but like Mothma's like, hey, I was hanging out with Hera. She said Ezra, that choppers run around our base. They met that guy Kenobi. So it's fun. It leaves room for interpretation, tip of the iceberg storytelling, and it inspires great headcanon thoughts.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think Bale's really got that. He's still kind of an active Jedi in that he's there watching over the child, but when we really need him, I can reach out to him, and that I love that. I think it's time to dial your Jedi, buddy.
Yeah.
That Mon Mothma says to Bale. But yeah, I understand the getting caught up in the but yeah, you should tell Rex, and they should go get him. I think that there is something to me that I feel like Ezra got it. I feel like he got the spirit of Obi-Wan really focused on you have your life and your responsibility and your destiny, and I have mine, and I need to be here. Like Obi-Wan doesn't say, I need to be here as strongly as he says to Ezra that you need to be where you are needed. But I wonder if it makes emotional sense to me that Ezra understood that lesson and that he wouldn't have been a pawn, drawn Maul to Obi-Wan, have Obi-Wan tell him, I wasn't supposed to have to fight him, but you made that happen. That's okay, though. Why don't you go back to where you're supposed to be? And then that he would learn all those lessons and then go, but we got to go back for him, I think Ezra got it. So if anything, I really like your headcanon that maybe he told Kanan and maybe said, should I tell Rex? I don't want to keep that from him, or maybe he still really could help us. And if Kanan said well, if what you sensed was he had a reason to be there and that's where he wanted to be, if he wanted to come with you, he would have. Let's leave him be. I think Kanan would have said that.
Yeah, absolutely. The Force. We'll see what the Force wills.
Yeah, exactly. Why do you think this episode ultimately is called Twin Suns? Beyond of course, it's Tatooine.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think just wonderfully poetic because of the Tatooine thing. So yeah, absolutely, I think that's there. I mean, I couldn't think what else would you answer this, and I love the shots too. There's a lot of great shots of the Twin Suns in this episode. Again, not a full episode review. One day we'll go through all of Rebels, I'm sure. I try to get not too deep into it, but I see Kenobi and Maul, two dueling suns in this galaxy, in this atmosphere, floating above the planet. I think Ezra and Luke, two different future Jedi or Jedi in training on different paths, but in the same galaxy under the same goals, different ways to get there. I think there's a lot of stuff from that I'll take from it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, I think it is obviously the literal two suns, and we get some great suns, and I think just the idea of twin suns is reminding you of all of these kind of visions of opposing forces in Star Wars. But there's something about it that I really like. You brought up the really great point that there is a little bit of meta going on here of Obi-Wan saying you're not supposed to be in this part of the Wikipedia article. In the Twin Suns feels like that to me too, because going back to A New Hope, Luke staring out at the Twin Suns and wondering about his destiny, hearing that big Force theme, it's almost like as a phrase, Twin Suns is shorthand for destiny, and that's what this, as an episode of Rebels, that's what this is dealing with, right? Of what is Ezra's destiny? Where should he be and why? So there's something about that to me of I wonder if it's a little bit meta to be like, Twin Suns is how we say destiny in Star Wars without saying destiny.
Big well said from there. And I love you pull it. This is definitely a special episode of Rebels. It's almost a short film on the side. And there's a lot of truth to that. But as a Rebels episode, what is the why of it? And you touched upon it there, destiny, Ezra, and the choices you need to make. So absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. So we're going to wrap up here. I've got a fun question, but before we do that, is there anything else? We've said plenty about this scene, but is there anything else that you wanted to add in conclusion before we close with our fun question?
A couple of things. You touched upon voice acting, Sam Witwer, and the famous shot of him in the booth yelling, Kenobi! I mean, it's so well. He just really zoned this character, and it's for many people there. Maul, Stephen Stanton takes over for the Kenobi role. James Arnold Taylor, you can hear him in the beginning of this episode. Obviously, James Arnold Taylor is just a fantastic Kenobi. I think Stanton did an amazing job, not just sounding like it, but capturing and able to pull off those little moments, like you said, of I seem to have found it, and the tiny moments here. I highlighted them, and then also we mentioned again, but Henry Gilroy it's a name that is not in the conversation a lot. People know him, fans know him. He's not as actively involved, but he's out there working in this city, and has so much to do with the formation of Clone Wars as the show that we all grew to love, and so much with to do with what made Rebels so powerful and so deep beyond the surface. And that's not taken away Filoni or anything he's done, and not even about that. It's a name that's not mentioned as much. And if you go back to early, I stumbled on that one old article. I was looking for some research for one of our shows, and I remember I kept citing it. We were talking about the early Clone Wars stuff on the Clone Wars Report. It is an interview with Filoni and Gilroy before the show came out, but after I think the movie was out or around that time or in promotion of the movie. And they're treated as the duo that are bringing you this show. Things change. This is, again, it's not like some Filoni pushed him out or any of that junk. This is not gossip type stuff. Just I really, really believe Gilroy has molded some of the deep stories in Clone Wars and now Rebels, and I just love his involvement in this episode. It was just perfect.
Yeah, I think it's great to shout out all those people. James Arnold Taylor, obviously, great job as Obi-Wan across many different Star Wars storytelling platforms and moments. Stephen Stanton does a great job with nailing the mood and the tone and the wisdom and the kindness and the snark. It's not an easy job to match Alec Guinness, the subtlety of that performance, in the variation of tone within this one larger tone of being the Obi-Wan of peace and purpose. And he does an amazing job, and totally agree with you on Henry Gilroy. I think it's a thing that just happens sometimes. I'm a big Twin Peaks fan, and Lynch, has certainly done a lot of Twin Peaks things himself, but it's David Lynch and Mark Frost. And sometimes the Mark Frost just drops away. That's a thing that happens in the industry and the way we consume entertainment. And I think it's really great of you to take a moment and just, if you're watching an episode of Clone Wars in particular and going like, wow, this one was great, this one really got to the core of what this is about, a lot of times it's going to say written or co-written by Henry Gilroy, and that's a thing to be celebrated.
Yeah.
All right. Fun question. Ken, if you could be at a campfire with old Obi-Wan in this era, what might you ask him about?
Look, obviously there's going to be some, what was your favorite meal at Dex, but without being salacious, without being gossipy, without being, going too far down that direction, I would probably look at Kenobi and be like, hey, man, what happened with Satine during that year? What happened with you two crazy kids? Why were you ready to leave the Jedi Order? It's storytelling I want as a Star Wars fan. If I'm at a campfire with Kenobi, I'm going to ask him.
Yeah, I would give him a little bit of grief about. So you said that you would leave the Jedi Order if Satine asked.
Mm-hmm.
So you put this all on Satine, didn't you? And see how that conversation goes with Obi-Wan and his growth. Yeah, I mean, I think it's an ongoing joke, but it's also from a place of love of like, do you miss Dex's Diner? Like, I know you miss the Jedi Order and all that, and you miss Anakin, but do you just miss hanging out? And I guess the other thing I would ask him is, I know there's probably some not great things about living on Tatooine, but is there any little creature comfort you enjoy? Is there any, like, you like eating this particular kind of lizard? Or, every once in a while when you go into town, you have a real safe, real casual chat with this one particular, person who sells this kind of fruit. Is what little bit of joy have you found in your difficult Jedi life?
Yeah, that's great.
I would love to hear it. Love to hear lots of things Obi-Wan has to say, and we're lucky to have so much storytelling with Obi-Wan. And, part of the reason that we wanted to do this episode now is because we're still a ways out from actually seeing the show, but there is great excitement about the Kenobi show. I think there's a lot for it to cover and examine and explore with great depth. I would be happy if it was just Ewan McGregor going to the cantina once or twice and maybe running into Bosk. I'd be fine with that because I'd be happy to have more Kenobi content. But I think scenes like this remind us of how rich the tapestry of Kenobi's life is. And I'm looking forward to finding out more of how he got to this great place of peace and purpose. So with that, Ken, do you want to tell people where they can find us?
Would love to. On Twitter at Force Center Pod. We are also on Instagram and YouTube. Facebook page is Force Center Podcast. Podcasts available on Anchor, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and now Amazon Music. Merch is available at tpublic.com/user/Force Center. Patreon.com/ForceCenter is where you can support us directly and get into that Discord community. Great Force Center discussions and just community fans going on over there. We got our own things as well. You can go to @Napzok or KenNapzok.com and follow all my adventures, including the new one, Good People, GPA, Good People Association, digital brand network production company that just launched with Josh McCouga, Mark Riley, and Eric Bass of the band Shinedown. A lot of cool things coming and cool people. In fact, since we've literally built a small bar in that studio, hope to discuss Star Wars with Joseph and Mark Riley in person with drinks in our hand on camera one day.
Oh, that sounds absolutely wonderful.
So that's my stuff. Joseph, where can they find yours?
Yeah, you can find me Twitter and Instagram at Joseph Scrimshaw, and you can check out my website, josephscrimshaw.com, for all my other comedy adventures, comedy albums. Got a show coming up with the Double Clicks and a bunch of great guests on Valentine's Day. It's an online comedy music variety show. There are tickets for that on that website at josephscrimshaw.com. But for now, for myself, for Ken, for Chopper, for Ezra, for that Dewback, for Maul, and for Obi-Wan Kenobi at the campfire, this has been Force Center.